I wanted President Nixon to re-award my Medal of Honor to me because he was my commander in combat. We were at San Clemente. Jack Brennan was present in the room with us, and President Nixon had a photographer, and we sat and chatted with him about the war for quite a while. And the thrust of the conversation was that he apologized that he had been slow in bombing North Vietnam, but they'd gotten a tremendous amount of contrary advice not to do it. So that was one of the major reasons for this discussion we had with him before he represented the medal. The reason President Nixon obtained the support of all of the POWs was because there had been several years of foot dragging by the President, by the Defense Department, by the State Department about how to end the war in Vietnam. There was only one obvious answer, and that was to bomb them out. It was a very tough decision for President Nixon to make because he had just been through a campaign with his competitor where basically he could not emphasize that I'm running on a platform of bombing Vietnam. So it took him some time before that could happen, and we all understood that. We were limited on our ability to evaluate the information on peace with honor that the president was trying to achieve. The reason being our primary source of information was Hanoi Hannah, who broadcast into our room for several hours a day. So you had to be suspicious of all of the information you got, and many times you had to put the reverse solution, and that was to whatever they said happened, assume that something absolutely the opposite happened. As the later shootdowns began to trickle in, we actually got some live information from home. There was a Navy pilot shot down a couple of years after the president was elected who brought a lot of news in with us. And so we were updated considerably. But it was clear that the president was attempting to put himself in a position where he could do what he had to do in Vietnam, and that was to bomb them out. This pilot came in, brought a good amount of info to us, talking about the build-ups, and the planning was coming to actually strike North Vietnam with the B-52s, which it was clear had to be the solution. I would say it was very close to unanimous. Not every POW was backing President Nixon, and of course we didn't get to vote. So I would say that probably 98% of the POWs in a straw poll voted for President Nixon, and the dissenting votes were for Barry Goldwater, the senator. The decision that the president used to end the war was to send a launch message to SAC headquarters and tell them to bomb up all those bombers in Guam and Thailand and go strike Hanoi. And that was the only solution that ever would work because the Vietnamese were 100% intransigent in what their stand was on POWs and every other issue. And there was only one thing that would work besides the bombing, and that was to put a bayonet to the president of North Vietnam's throat and apply a little pressure. I think President Nixon should and will be remembered in history as one of the bravest presidents that we've had in our long history. That was an excruciatingly difficult decision, and of course the results of it could not be absolutely known. But he had a brave heart, and he knew that he had to do that. There wasn't any alternative. And so when faced with that sure knowledge, he sent the order off to SAC headquarters and said, bomb them out. Don't stop until they wave the white flag. I am absolutely certain that that was what ended the war. There was no other solution. We bombed them for years and years. There was only one way that we were going to get to the North Vietnamese leadership, and that was to go bomb them in their own nest, because they had once said that they would fight to the last drop of Vietnamese blood. But the last drop of Vietnamese blood was not going to be the North Vietnamese generals or leadership. When the bombing came, they moved into the POW camp with us, because that was the only safe place in Hanoi. President Nixon gets 100% credit for bringing that dragged-out war, tremendous loss of American lives. He gets a ton of credit for doing the right thing.